All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of Keep 100 Radio. You know who we're back with. We are back with my co-coach, Jessica Hrdlicka. She's our nutrition coach inside of Keep 100 and just basically the queen of all things food, baking, nutrition, dosing, all the amazing things. So if you haven't been on the show before, Jess, I want you to take it away, introduce yourself, and share about what you do inside of Keep 100.
Yeah, I'm so happy to be here. I'm excited. My name is Jessica Hrdlicka. I'm a registered dietitian. I'm also a certified diabetes care education specialist. I've been in the diabetes space now for over a decade. I myself do not have type 1 diabetes, but I am the nutrition coach inside of Keeping It 100, and I go over all the things of basal rate testing, correction factors, carb ratios, all that stuff.
Basically all the really fun things that you don't find fun in your endocrinologist appointment, but just makes fun. So I promise, if you're here, you're in the right place. But today, on the day of recording, it's December 5th, which means that there's only about, less than 3 weeks away from the holidays. If you're somebody who celebrates Christmas or even the New Year, Hanukkah, anything that you celebrate this time of year can feel really complex, especially when you're living with type 1 diabetes, because we have this narrative that the more variability you have in your life, so the different foods, the different activities, maybe different schedules, different environments, that can add more variability into your blood sugars. So naturally, it can feel a little bit harder to navigate when things are outside of your norm. When we have our normal foods, our normal routine, things sometimes feel a-okay. But what happens when things change? So in today's episode, we really want to dive into all the holiday hacks that you need to know to feel confident walking into this holiday season and feel like you don't have to sacrifice your blood sugars just because you want to enjoy the season and stay present. So Jess, I guess let's start off with what are the common things that you see, whether it's in clients or your patients that kind of come from this holiday season and as people are navigating their blood sugars.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it can definitely be overwhelming, especially if you're traveling or if you're doing events with complete strangers or even family. So I think some of the things that come up is kind of how do I dose for this? How do I bolus for this? I'm going to be grazing. So what does that look like? What are some things that I can use for tools to help me with carb counting with new foods? And what should I do if I experience those high blood sugars, later on in the evening because something wasn't carb counted correctly or it was a high fat meal. Those kind of common themes I see it comes up a lot during our sessions with our clients.
Yeah, I feel like it's a really common time where we can kind of go in that all or nothing mentality of I either need to avoid the different foods or different, activities. We had a client at one point say hey, my first Thanksgiving with diabetes, I didn't even go see my family because it was just really overwhelming. So we can kind of go into that all or nothing of okay, I'm either gonna avoid this completely or okay, I'm going to be completely present, but my blood sugars are going to be on the back burner. And I feel like there can be that healthy balance. It just kind of, I feel like what goes into it is A, the mindset, and B, how you set yourself up for success. And it doesn't have to be in a way that's overwhelming, I don't think. It just kind of takes some practicing, and the more that you troubleshoot through it and the more that you put yourself in that scenario, the more that you can kind of go through the motion and troubleshoot it, go through the trial and error. So Jess, let's go into I know that we talked about a lot of different hacks with our clients, and I want to dive into that today. But when it comes to kind of mindset wise, what do you think is what's the biggest piece there that you think is most important?
Yeah, I think it's remembering that it is the holidays and it's a festive time and you certainly want to have fun and enjoy it. So it definitely shouldn't be like what you said, Lissie, all or nothing, I'm not going to enjoy any of the foods. I'm just going to stick to what I know. You definitely want to try different things and have fun. But as you mentioned, having somewhat of those strategies that you can use even on the fly that will help you get through a meal or a social situation that you're not used to. So kind of going in knowing, okay, I can use these tools if I need them. And remembering too, it doesn't have to be perfect, right? You don't have to have the perfect blood sugar outcome afterwards. You can always kind of widen those target ranges during a meal or a trip, whatever, to make sure you're not, always having your alarms going off and kind of distracting you from the fun of the holiday.
Yeah, I think that's a huge one, especially boundary wise, because I think that's another thing that creeps in of like that worry of, well, if my alarm is beeping, one, I can't stay present, and then two, I get all of these questions, and I don't want to deal with those questions when I'm trying to just enjoy the moment. So that's like one thing that we really talk about a lot inside Keep 100 is like, okay, this is that day where you don't need to have your target range from 70 to 180 or 70 to 150, whatever you choose it to be. Like, why not widen that range a little bit? You don't have to have your high alarms on. Like, you can check in every once in a while, set that boundary. And then, even that, too, one of the really common tools that we've been using with our clients as well, courtesy of the Happy Bob app, they gave us some coupon codes to give to our clients, is like, and they're not sponsoring this episode or anything. It's just like, I genuinely love the app. But one thing that we've been doing with our clients is giving them access to that app. And what this app does is it takes all that data from your CGM and it puts it into this like really fun way of looking at your blood sugars. So it looks really similar to say like the Dexcom app, but it makes it fun. So it will like kind of it just kind of like makes jokes around the blood sugar sometimes. Like if I'm low, it's like, whoa, 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 what are you doing? Like, hold up. Like it just makes it really fun. So we've had clients to completely turn off their alarms on their Dexcom app and just use things like the Happy Bob app because that makes the experience a little bit lighter and it makes it so that we don't feel so much pressure and overwhelm once we hear an alarm or we see like a red, like the red circle on our Dexcom app or we don't see like an arrow up. We can kind of create that less mental overwhelm so we can make better decisions. So like if you're looking for an app that's a tool, that's one of my favorite apps. But let's dive into some of the strategies. So I know that we have a ton of tips to pull in here, but just to like name your, like let's start with your favorite one, like your number one tip if you have to go on the holiday into the holiday season. What is like the number one piece of advice that you would give?
I always go for our classic, PFF method, because that's something that you can really do anywhere with any kind of food. And it's not something that you're taking away foods that you enjoy. It's all about kind of adding those foods to your plate so you can still have great blood sugars. And if you're not familiar with PFF, it is protein, fiber, and fat. And those are the nutrients that actually could help slow down your blood sugar spikes. So it times better with the timing of your insulin when you're dosing around meals. And it's just fun, adding some different fiber to your plate with vegetables, salads, adding some different proteins. So just looking for those things when you're at a get together, and then some healthy fats onto your plate too. And like I said, you can do it anywhere. And it kind of gives you that extra step to think about, okay, what am I putting on my plate? How could I possibly dose for this? So implementing that strategy has been a game changer for a lot of our clients.
Yeah, even me too, because it takes away that pressure of like, oh, I can't eat the carbs. It's just like, how can I eat the carbs? And not only will that like change the result of my blood sugars, but it makes me feel like more full so I don't feel as restricted. And like chances are when you go into the holiday, like whether you're at your aunt's house or a family, whatever it is, chances are the platter or like plates that are around you can pair anything. Like it's so easy. Do you have like any examples of like holiday specific type of PFF meals?
Yeah, so for fiber, you can definitely look for if there's any kind of salads or vegetables, or sometimes you can always offer to bring them if you have like a great Brussels sprout recipe or something like that. Also, nuts too. Sometimes people put out nuts, so that can be a great way to add fiber. When it comes to proteins, it could be something like turkey, chicken. Some families will have beef or ham during the holidays, or even seafood. And then any kind of healthy fat could be some kind of like avocado or like a guacamole dip or like hummus. And yeah, cheese. It can just be a really fun way. Like you said, it helps you feel full. You still got to try a bunch of different yummy foods. And it's pretty easy to implement.
Oh yeah, I love that you said Brussels sprouts because I literally am getting together with like my siblings and my cousins. We're doing a little Christmas gathering and we have a chain going on and my sister-in-law gave us like all the platters that we have so far and I was like, it sounds like we need some fiber. I'm gonna bring Brussels sprouts.
Nice.
So yeah, spot on. Amazing. I love that. And then, what would be your runner-up tip? Like anything else that you feel like somebody needs to know going into this holiday season?
Yeah, so I think we talked about this the other day on our group, Lissie, was kind of just like being present and kind of slowing it down a little bit, especially when we go into holiday meals. I think sometimes the mistake that people make is they show up to a get together super hungry, and then you really want to like eat everything really quick, sometimes to the point that you didn't even get to enjoy it because you're just trying everything. So just kind of taking your time, being present, maybe putting those items on a separate plate so you're not kind of grazing, but more of an intentional, choice of what foods that you're eating, and enjoy it because somebody took the time to prepare it. So kind of eating it slow, savoring the food, taking your time, and you're going to notice that you're going to have better blood sugars from that, but it also just feels better because we've all been super stuffed after a holiday meal and that doesn't feel good.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that you said that. One of our clients, like literally last week, she's like, "Why didn't I like putting my food on a plate and like actually carb counting? Why did I think of that?" So it'd be so easy to go into that environment, just like, okay, you're kind of saving your appetite for the meal later. But I always treat holidays very similarly to how I treat any other day. Like, I wake up, have my breakfast, even if it's a different whatever it is, have my breakfast. I made sure to have my lunch, a snack. Usually that's a smoothie. Even if it's a few hours before, I made sure to eat it because I'm like, I want to go into this like being strategic and not having my hungry brain on, which can a lot of times get in the way of our decision making. So I'm really glad that you mentioned that. Any other tips that you have? I know that we had when we were going through this episode, we had a lot, so I want to make sure that
Yeah.
we touch on.
One thing I would say is just remember to stay hydrated. I think it's another thing that's super easy during the holidays to forget, especially if you're traveling, you're talking to so many people, you want to see everybody. And I've done this myself where I think, have I had any water in like the last 2 hours? And that can make a difference not only in how you feel, but in your blood sugars.
Oh yeah, especially when there's wine involved, I will 100% usually get caught up in the wine rather than the water, and it's a good reminder to include both. So I love that.
Definitely.
I think one of my biggest tips too, and I actually made like a TikTok about this the other day, and a lot of people were like, "I didn't even know this existed." If you are somebody who uses MyFitnessPal, and don't get me wrong, like I'm not a huge fan of MyFitnessPal for like calorie counting and like that restrict like their idea of calorie counting, but they do have some really great tools in there for carb counting. So more recently they actually took away the option to scan things and you have to use like a paid account for that, which I'm kind of low-key pissed off about. But they do have a great feature under recipes. You can import a recipe. So I'm very much somebody who will go and look up a recipe from Pinterest. Like that's my go-to. And they make it really simple where you can simply copy that link and paste it into the app, and it will import all of the ingredients and break it down for you based off the serving size. So like I use that a lot. You can replace the ingredients with specific brands that you use. And I just find that really easy. So like going into, I use the example of like our cousin's dinner that we'll be doing. I texted everybody and I was like, hey, like if you're using a Pinterest recipe or whatever it is, can you just send that my way? So that, and it's actually funny, my cousin's husband is also type 1 diabetic. So I'm like, this is, killing two birds with one stone of like being able to use this for both of us. I'm like, can you send me the recipe so I can then have the carb counts? It seems really silly, but like so simple. And I will actually like on this episode, I'll link that TikTok there. So if you need the breakdown visually, I got you. But yeah, I love these tips. It makes it so easy.
Yeah, I know that. I think it was actually Kylie in our group a while ago, but she did the same thing with MyFitnessPal and she used her family recipe. So if your family does like a cookie every year, a certain stuffing every year, and you have that recipe, you can save it in MyFitnessPal, and then every year, boom, it's already there. So it's one less thing you have to worry about, and carb count makes it so easy.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, the one struggle is my future mother-in-law. She doesn't use recipes. She's the Italian, like it's like, I don't use recipes. So you have to just add everything in. But I really like that because you're right. Like if we're doing the same thing every year, like Thanksgiving, I use the same pumpkin pie recipe every single year. I'm the pie aunt. It's just the way that it goes. So yeah, have that, break it down into how many slices, boom, right there. Super simple. I love this. Any other bonus hacks, or do you think we covered our bases?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like we said, the most important thing is have fun with it. It doesn't have to be overwhelming and stressful, and it doesn't have to be perfect. And yeah, hopefully these tips will make it a lot easier this holiday season.
Yeah, I love it. And like we always say inside of our program, like if you don't eat the cupcake, you won't know how to bolus for the cupcake. And that's how I approach any scenario with food involved, holidays, whatever it is. Really, like the biggest takeaway is you get to know more for next year. Even if it's not the exact dosing decision, you get to know like, okay, more or less like Thanksgiving last year, I'm like, all right, clearly this was a lot higher fat than I thought because I had a really delayed spike. I get to go into Thanksgiving this year with more information behind me and say like, how can I change up my strategy for this year? So either way, you're not losing. You're always winning because you have more information. So yeah, thank you so much, Jess, for coming on and sharing this. I think this will be really great going into Christmas and the New Year and everything coming up after that.
Yeah, this was so fun. And like you said, you can use these tips any holiday. We have a lot of them.
Yeah. And I will actually throw in a last note here too that Jess will be doing a masterclass inside of Keep 100 this upcoming week, all about building PFF into your desserts for your recipes for the holiday season. So if that is something that interests you, join us inside of Keep 100. You have that as a bonus module. And if you know Jess, she's amazing with her recipes. So yeah, side pro tip there.